Are there any other votes? Announce the results.
Ayes 94, noes 0.
The bill is passed. Mr. Morelli.
Yes, thank you, sir. We'd like to ask members of the Education Committee to go to the Speaker's conference room. Ms. Nolan is prepared to conduct the committee's work. Education in the Speaker's conference room.
Education Speakers Conference Room. Mr. Morelli.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. If I could take up the next two bills in this order. We'll start with, on page 32 of the main calendar, calendar number 461 by Ms. Lepardo. And then calendar number 664 on page 52 by Mr. Perry.
Clerk will read.
Assembly 9056, Calendar 461, Ms. Lepardo, an act to amend the Alcoholic Beverage Control Law.
An explanation is requested, Ms. Lepardo, but why don't you wait until that area clears and we have a little quiet?
Ready?
Not quite yet. 1 minute. You have a string of folks going to pass you in a minute. And some more. Seems to be a rather popular passageway right now, Mr. Pardo. All righty. Settle down, everybody. Conversations, please get away from Ms. Lepardo so that she can not be disturbed. Go ahead, Ms. Lepardo.
Very much. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We are amending existing alcoholic beverage control law, the ABC law. Under current law, students, underage students who are enrolled in an approved course of study, part of a culinary curriculum, can taste alcoholic beverages on campus. This is already state law. We've been asked by various culinary schools to allow for this very provision to apply to off-campus sites. With the growth and explosion of our craft beverage industry and the number of students that are needing to be trained to be involved in this industry, these schools would like to, under the supervision of their instructors as part of an approved curriculum, to allow for tastings, mind you, tastings on off-campus sites. They can currently do it on campus. This would apply now to off-campus sites.
Mr. McKevitt?
Sure. Will sponsor yield for a few questions, please?
Will you yield, Mr. Lepardo?
I will.
Ms. Lepardo yields.
I certainly understand the intent of the bill. You have those culinary schools that have students who, as part of that curriculum, will have wine tastings, or maybe there'll be some sort of cooking or preparation with alcoholic beverages. But I've discussed with you there's just one significant concern that we need to address either in the implementation of it or communication with colleges and schools, which is as follows. In 1996, this legislature and the governor enacted a law known as the New York State No Tolerance Law. And if a person is under the age of 21 and they have a blood alcohol content of between 0.02 and 0.07, then you can be charged with the violation of driving after consuming alcohol. And the penalty for that would be automatic suspension of your license for 6 months. So my concern is that in clarifying the bill, you're going to say that you can do it off campus or on campus. I think you take the perspective, well, students can do this on a college campus right now. And I think you may have the concern if they're commuting from home, they drive to college, they take the course, they drive home. 0.02 is a very low threshold. Depending upon your tolerance, your body weight, it may only be, a very small glass that would trigger this. And my concern is if we're going to do this, we'd have to have some sort of communication with the colleges or the students that you really should be very careful about driving a car, because under this law, you could very easily trigger it and lose your license for a very significant period of time.
Yeah. I can certainly appreciate the point that you're raising because it applies right now to
Right.
students, as you mentioned, driving to school and back. And the same issue that you're raising would be concern for students driving to the neighborhood winery and back.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. I think that, it would certainly behoove the instructors to become aware, and it might be a good thing for their curriculum to share what that .02 means for men, women, different weights and sizes. So I agree with you, and I think that's something that we will most definitely communicate to those schools who have this curriculum. But I think you raise a good point.
Thank you. And again, I understand the curriculum. We want to go and promote this type of industry in New York, but they may very unknowingly commit a violation and impair their ability to continue to go to school and continue to go to work. And I guess the concern we just have is by saying that's off campus and on campus, it increases the chances there's going to be a violation. But you're right. Today, if, again, you're commuting from home and you're doing an on-campus course and leaving, you can commit that violation and very unknowingly lose your license.
Right.
Okay.
Good point.
Thank you.
Mr. Lupinacci,
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the sponsor yield for a quick question?
will you yield, Ms. Lepardo?
I will.
Sponsor yields.
Now, I just want to ask a quick question. I know this is already intact for on-campus curriculum, correct?
Yes, it's
Okay.
already existing law.
Yeah, so it's part of the existing law. So
We're
this just
adding 2 words to the existing law,
Right.
off campus.
off campus. And have there been any reports, because I know Mr. McKevitt did, bring up some concerns, but based on any of the commuter colleges that have culinary programs, have you heard of any accidents or anything that has occurred for students under the age of 21 or any
I have
serious-
not. I have not heard anything to that effect.
Okay, good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
On the bill, Mr. Speaker? On the bill?
On the bill, Mr. Lupinacci.
Thank you. I just want to commend the sponsor of this bill because it does add, a great curriculum change to allow off-campus visits of students that are in culinary programs across the state. Because as our industries begin to expand in breweries and wineries, I think will be better part of the course and the curriculum to make it more robust. Because currently, students that are of college age and under the age of 21 can consume alcoholic beverages as long as it's in par with the curriculum if they're studying the culinary field. So I guess this will continue to give them more hands-on experience as the trade and as these wineries and breweries continue to expand across the state. So I think it will be a win for, say, for instance, Suffolk Community College, which has out on its eastern campus a robust culinary program. And as my colleague, Mr. Palumbo, represents over 54 wineries in his area, that partnerships will continue to build between the breweries and the wineries and the academic programs across the state. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Lupinacci. Read the last section.
This act shall take effect immediately.
Clerk will record the vote. Are there any other votes? Announce the results.
Ayes 81, noes 9.
The bill is passed.
Assembly 5627B, Calendar 664, Mr. Perry, an act to amend the Vehicle and Traffic Law.
A explanation is requested, Mr. Perry.
Mr. Speaker, the purpose of this legislation is
We need your mic on, Mr. Perry.
thought I spoke loud enough. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The purpose of this legislation is to clarify that commuter van vehicles operating with state and/or federal authority are to be registered as and licensed as livery vehicles.
Mr. Corwin,
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would the sponsor yield?
will you yield, Mr. Perry?
With much pleasure.
Thank you, Nick. I appreciate it. Just out of curiosity, is there a specific situation we're trying to address with this bill? Because what we're doing here is changing a definition of livery.
Yes. Yes, specifically, there are commuter vans used very much in the city of New York, and I'm sure other parts of the state. And there is no definition in the Vehicle and Traffic Law that recognizes commuter vans. As a matter of fact, within New York City, there's a big project on to legitimize them as an integral part of the transport system. And these vehicles operate within the local jurisdiction, but most of them also have dual authorization because they also have federal charters to operate from the airports, transporting passengers, and the local, because they go outside the local jurisdiction, a regular taxi license would not be sufficient. So therefore, they need to be included in the livery license.
I see. So the problem here is that a lot of them have a taxi cab license now. And
They are being forced to have taxi license, but they're not really taxi because the whole definition of taxi would not apply to them.
certainly. Okay, thank you. I didn't understand that that was the problem. The concern that was raised to me is that the section of law that you're changing the definition of livery addresses only the registration. Let me see here. I apologize. Let me find my spot here. Oh, it deals with registration periods and fees for certain types of vehicles. It doesn't actually change the definition of livery.
That's
done in a
correct.
different section of law.
Well, we're not actually changing the definition. What we are doing is adding this to what is really a livery vehicle.
I see. Okay. So what you're trying to do is address the registration aspects of it, or you're trying to
No,
actually...
these vehicles already operate with livery plates,
Okay.
but they're not recognized within the VTL. We're trying to fix that, to clarify that they are indeed livery vehicles and entitled to those plates.
I see. Okay.
Rather than, because all vehicles that, for hire vehicles, currently, they're either a bus or a taxi cab. It's either a bus or a taxi. There's no definition for these commuter vans, which are one or two passengers less than would allow them to fit into the definition of a bus. Mm-hmm. And they're not taxi cabs because they have their passenger load is more than what a taxi would carry.
Okay.
But they are not, it's some kind of a quirk in the law for a transportation system that came into place ahead of the law, and this would fix it.
I see. Okay. I guess what's confusing our staff is that you have two definitions of livery. You've got the definition as in section 121E of the VTL, but then the part you're changing is in a different section. You're changing section 401 having to do with registrations. So if all you're trying to do is address the license plate situation,
Right.
that would be appropriate. If you're trying to do something else, then it would need to be changed. in
Right.
another
Well, commuter vans is a type of livery under the current law, but it's not recognized in the law. So we're actually, if you go through the VTL, you'll not find any mention of commuter vans. But
Right.
it is a functional, operational, is a part of our transportation system around the state.
Sure, absolutely, you're right. I'm just wondering if what needs to happen, I'm just trying to avoid any kind of problems down the line, if we need to have a separate definition aside from livery.
It's really just about the plate.
It's just about the plates. I see. Okay, well, thank you very much, Mr. Perry. I
You're very
appreciate
welcome.
it. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you.
Read the last section.
This act shall take effect immediately.
Clerk will record the vote.